Now, get up out your seats. Coming to the ring. Now, but I'm wondering if you can bring it with one win, no losses. Undefeated in the streets. Weighing in over 300 pounds. IHWE Radio. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I be singing. I'm here to get that crowd loud. I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I be singing. But I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I be singing. I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it. When the round bell is ringing in the ring, then I be singing. But I'm here to get that crowd loud. But I'm wondering if you can bring it.
Good evening, everybody. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central in the great state of Texas. And here behind the Redwood Curtain, the home of IHWE Professional Wrestling Radio, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. And I would love to say it's the sunny coast of California, but where we're at, it's a little wet. A little bit of thunder, a little bit of rain, a little bit of just nasty. It's not sunny. I'm sad. But we're here. We're going to entertain you tonight. We got some great guests. Joining me, as always, sequestered away there in Camp Sousa, private location. We don't give out the details. My co-host, Joe Sousa. Joe, how you doing tonight?
I am doing well, a lot better compared to last week. As you know, my wife, the darling Mrs. Joe, her van was down, so we had to take care of some business with that. Got the brakes and the starter up and running, so she's good to go, and things have been really good today. I always have a big smile on my face when I watch some Cow Palace wrestling. As you know, Mike, and for our listeners that may not know, I have exclusive footage of some Shire's Cow Palace wrestling from the early, mid, late 70s, given to me by the late Dorothy Hopkins, the lady that made all of Pat Patterson's beautiful ring entrance jackets. Got done doing a little project, made a little DVD for Mr. Greg Masters, which happens to be Lord Jonathan Boyd's son of the Royal Kangaroos. But enough of that. We have a lot to talk about. For starters, we got the Old School Hustle coming up on the 28th, which wrestling returns to radio. Before the show starts, there'll be a couple of dark matches. Yours truly, I will be back in the broadcast position doing the play-by-play. Mike, you'll be with me doing the color, as well as our illustrious boss, Mr. David Fuller, and that's going to be really exciting. And for our fans, our friends and family up here behind the Redwood Curtain, we have a date. And, Mike, if you want to go ahead and indulge a little bit more, have at it.
Basically, folks, as he said, there is a date set. We are going tomorrow to Redwood Acres Fairgrounds to speak with the board there, sign everything, make everything proper. But we are returning, and IHWE California will be making its debut show February 7th, Redwood Acres Fairgrounds. We're going to do it one more time. We're going to be bringing back some of the guys that we had this year, some of the names that y'all remember, some of those ones you liked. We're also going to be adding in a few new names, including some from the great state of Texas. We're going to blend a little bit of Texas with a little bit of California, and we're going to put on one hell of a show. We'll have some more details over the next few weeks as things go on. But, yes, February 7th, mark it on your calendars. And, yeah, we will be returning to Redwood Acres Fairgrounds. And I've talked with David, talked with the other people. This will be an IHWE TV taping. So if you're not able to make it to Redwood Acres Fairgrounds, you're working, you have a kid, I have kids, I understand that. You don't live in California. Brian, you're in Idaho. If you can't make a show, it will be airing next year on IHWE TV. So a lot of big things going. Still got a few little details to work out. We will keep everyone posted, though.
Now, for you fans that were at the event this past March 22nd, you saw one hell of a show. For those of you that missed it, shame on you. We opened with a battle royal. We had 2 championship matches, technically 3 championship matches. We had a Battle Royal, which the winner became the first ever DOA Northern California champion, which was won by Wade by God Hess. Well, he won the title from Dr. Cleaver. Cleaver won the Battle Royal and the title under controversial circumstances. More on that later. But there's a rematch in the making. As you know, the ex-champion always gets his rematch within a certain period of time. And, well, the last time we did a show was this past March, February. We're going to be back at Redwood Acres, and there's a good chance they may go at it again for the title. And, as usual, there's surprises, announcements. You have to be there. Plus, you have to listen every Wednesday night to see what's going on. Mark it on your calendar. Saturday night, February the 7th, Redwood Acres. It's going to be a blast.
I'm kind of looking forward to this show. I mean, I enjoyed last year's show. We all know that via listeners, Joe, you know as well. I got a little bit stressed out. I didn't quite understand how much pressure it took to put on a show. But I'm ready this time. I think I got my game face on. I think I'll be good. And, hey, if something happens and somebody tries a little trickery, knocks out the referee, damn it, I got the experience. I could throw on the stripes and run in there and count a 3 count. I've done that, too. So I'm coming back, man, and I got a little backup this time. We're going to do a good show.
Well, we had a little talk last night. Your exact words to me were about reffing the show. Your exact words were hell no. But, well, like I said, for our fans, friends, and family, and our listeners out there, if you want to see Mr. McCurdy be the third man in the ring, whether if he is or not, you got to be there.
I say we should start a poll. We'll find out. We'll get the listeners in. They can email us at ihwradio@gmail.com. They can find us on Facebook. Do you want to see me ref a match? Yes or no? If they vote yes, I'll throw on the stripes. I'll do it one more time. Live at Redwood Acres Fairgrounds. Let's make it fun. I just pray to God I don't get stuck in the ring with Derek Drexel.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do a quick history bit. Something that has been mentioned real quick before we get on with it here. September the 5th, 1987, marked the debut of a big name wrestler in the Portland sports arena, Rip Oliver. He was in the Crow's Nest talking to Don Koss, saying he was going to go back east and take care of some unfinished business. Basically, in layman's terms, he was going to the World Wrestling Federation to go after his arch nemesis, Billy Jack Haynes. And as you know, these two had a big monster feud in Portland at that time. Well, at that time, Mr. Oliver introduced a new boy into the Crow's Nest. And I'll tell you, the Northwest was never the same since. We're talking about Len Denton, the Grappler. He made his Portland debut September the 5th, 1987.
That's a good piece of history. I like that. And we all know the Grappler will be part of Old School Hustle on September 28th at the Sendera Center, Fort Worth, Texas. I can't quite give you the bell time. 5 p.m. bell time. I lie. 5 p.m. bell time. 5 p.m. Central bell time.
There's the connection. That's why I
taping. Exactly.
Right.
IHWE TV taping. If you're unable to be there, it will be airing on IHWE TV later this year. There will be a lot of other legends joining Len Denton as well. We have Stan Hansen, Jim Cornette, Barbara Goodish. We will be joined by Kyle O'Reilly. Black Bart will be there. I have just found out last week, gorgeous Gary Young will be at Old School Hustle. Definitely a great lineup, lot of great matches coming up, and definitely some interest. In fact, in our second hour tonight, we're going to be joined by the CAC Executive Vice President-elect, Morgan Dollar, who's going to give us his insight on the situation between IHWE founder David Fuller and his heavyweight champion, Matt Riviera. And if you follow Morgan on Facebook, you know he hasn't been afraid to state his opinion on Mr. Riviera. So I invited him on here tonight to talk with us live and let it go. Let us know his opinions, what he thinks is going to happen, because on the 28th, David and Matt will be meeting face-to-face, talking. They're going to be face-to-face. They're going to settle this like gentlemen. They're not going to fight. They're going to settle like gentlemen, we hope. But anyways,
I'm
going to be a
glad
situation.
You said we hope.
Looking forward to hearing Morgan's opinion. We hope. I honestly don't trust Matt Riviera. He's a little shifty. I'm kind of on Morgan's side. I know he's our IHWE heavyweight champion, but you got to keep an eye on him. So.
Okay, now keep in mind we've had people that's held championship belts that weren't exactly the most dependable or the most reliable or the most actual nice people in this business. There's been some people that's pulled a bunch of chicanery, and with one Mr. Riviera, there's no exception. To be point blank, I don't trust him. But, you know, a small part of me, benefit of the doubt, you know, we'll just have to see what happens. And with Mr. Morgan Dollar making his presence felt at Old School Hustle, how is that going to impact the conversation that Mr. Fuller and Mr. Riviera are going to have? We just don't know. You have to be there to see.
I don't know, man. I think Morgan, if he had to, he could step in that ring. He could probably throw down maybe a little. I mean, he's getting old, but, I mean, he might be able to defend himself, so, you know, who knows? Morgan's an interesting character. I always enjoy talking to him. Of course, after I'm done talking to him, I sound like I'm a refuge, you know, extra on the episode of Andy Griffith's show, but other than that, we're okay. You know,
hey, yeah, when you talk, I play my banjo.
No banjos, Joe. Keep banjo behind. No. Anyways, you were talking a little bit of history there about the grappler. We also have our resident history expert, as we all know, on IHWE Radio, and we definitely don't want to step on his toes because he always enlightens us with some of the great facts, things that I forget, things that I'm sure we've all forgotten. He hasn't, though. He's really good at what he does. Brian Westcott. Brian, how you doing tonight?
Doing real good, and yes, today, as a matter of fact, 33 years ago today, in Kansas City, Missouri, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and Nature Boy Ric Flair, Lou Thesz as special guest referee. And the finish, Dusty tried to suplex Flair, and his legs gave way. Flair went for the pin, 1, 2, 3, and Flair wins his first NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Now, it was kind of bittersweet because Kansas City, they didn't really know much about Flair or Rhodes, and they basically gave Bob Geigel, promoter at that time, permission to have a world title change happen in his territory. And Flair at this time, he felt he wasn't polished, wasn't all that confident by this time. So it's kind of bittersweet. And, of course, by the time he dropped the title to Harley, June 10th, 1983, and he didn't have a problem dropping the belt to Harley because Vince McMahon was starting his national expansion, and the NWA wanted to make sure Harley had the belt. Harley had the reputation of being the toughest SOB on the planet. So they were ready. And then, of course, Flair thought that match was better than even the one at Starrcade, where he regained the belt. But, yeah, 33 years ago today, the whole thing involving with Nature Boy Ric Flair as a traveling NWA World Heavyweight Champion, traveling to different territories, defending the belt. So pretty exciting stuff. As
the
well
first
as
16 heavyweight titles, actually.
Yep. As well as the 15th, and I posted this on Chaz Taylor's Facebook page. The Lightning Kid defeated Chaz to win the Global Wrestling Federation Light Heavyweight Championship in Marietta, Georgia. Now, they spent a little time in Georgia, did a show over there at the Cobb County Civic Center, ironically, where WCW did some shows in the not-too-distant past. So, yeah, and I thought that interview went great last week. So, looking forward to tonight's program.
I heard the interview last week. Like I said, I was able to, be on that night. I took a listen, and it really got to me emotionally. I mean, I've always heard, there's politics in the business, there's heat, but when a veteran's son becomes the scapegoat, if you will, that's, my opinion, not cool at all. And what a story! What a story! I mean, it was good. It was well done interview, gentlemen. Great job.
Definitely went a turn that I wasn't expecting. I mean, we at first were talking about Chaz's career, his time in Global, the infamous bungee cord match, which I had to find out. And to find out what made that match such the infamous thing we all remember was the fact they didn't really test out the camera, and that's why we got the shot from we were down on the ground looking up, and we didn't see anything. So what made it memorable now we find out was actually just was failure, camera failure. But yeah, no, the interview definitely took a different turn when he started talking about his father and kind of being a second-generation star and all that. And yeah, in my opinion, it actually is probably one of our best interviews we've had. So definitely want to have Chaz back on again sometime. We invited him and his father to come on the show later on down the road and hear some more stories and just kind of find out more about life inside the ring. And speaking of the NWA World Heavyweight title there, we will be joined at 8:30, 6:30, 7:30, 9:30, wherever you may be, by Tokyo Monster Kahagas. He was a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, one of the top names on the independent scene. He's going to be joining us to talk about his career, as well as in our second hour, as I said, we will be joined by Morgan Dollar, and I'm sure David will be calling in to give his side of the story. So that'll be something definitely to look forward to. Unfortunately, in case anybody hasn't noticed, we are not joined by the phenomenal Austin James tonight. Austin has a prior commitment, wasn't able to make it, messaged me earlier. So he will be back next week. We're going to miss him. I like that little guy. You know, young kid, 17 years old, man. No, he doesn't remind me when I was 17. But, yeah, 17-year-old kid, you know, looking forward to having him back on. But I got to tell you something, guys. I don't know if you listened to his other show on Tuesday night, Pipe Bomb Radio. I called in last night when the Grappler was a guest on. I was hoping to get a chance to talk with the Grappler for a minute, but I called in a little bit later. Grappler's already gone, but I got to come on the show. Felix puts me on the air, and he's talking for a second. Austin thinks that I'm Jagger Lane. Anybody who knows Jagger Lane, that's with the with Hulk Hogan's Championship Wrestling group, he thought I was Jagger Lane. Didn't recognize me, so I had to rib Austin a little bit, let him know that, yeah, he was fired. But I call in to talk to him, and he thinks I'm somebody else. So I guess I'm going to start introducing myself as the host of this show, Jagger Lane. I don't know. I thought it was kind of a funny little story. I was going to give him a little bit of a hard time about it tonight, but I think that might be one of the reasons why he's not on here along with his martial arts group thing there. But anyways, I thought that was kind of funny. He was all excited, too. He knew who was on the air, man. Oh, yeah, Jagger Lane. And Felix Alameda was just, this isn't Jagger. I was like, this is Mike McCurdy, man. You are so fired. And, yeah, we just went from there. Talked about you for a second, too, there, Joe. If you listened to the interview, we found out, and I thought this was a revelation, Austin likes to spell your name. He just likes to say S-O-U-S-A.
Not in that monotone either. Not that monotone either, let me add. Mm-hmm. No. So, yes, Austin likes to spell your name, and he thinks I'm Jagger Lane. What's that?
I made sure Joe was plugged. I made sure I plugged his Facebook page near the end.
I heard that. That was very nice. And speaking of speaking of plugging, in approximately 90 minutes, for you folks that have the computer hooked up to the TV or you have a laptop, IHWE TV in 90 minutes, 8 o'clock here on the coast, 10 o'clock in Texas, and other times elsewhere in between.
Yes, IHWE TV at the top of the hour or end of our show, 10 p.m. Central will be airing on air. Tonight we are going to, I believe it's tonight, we're going to see some of the action from Showdown, including what transpired with Miss Dyslexia and Peyton Gates. So I believe that is our lineup for this evening, so I'm looking forward to that. I know some of the action from Showdown leading up to Old School Hustle. Once again, September 28th at the Sendera Center, Fort Worth, Texas, 5 p.m. Central Bell Time. If you have a VIP package, The doors open at 3 p.m., 1 hour prior to the opening of the door for the general audience. You will have a chance to meet and greet with some of the names that will be appearing at the show, sign autographs. You'll be able to get your picture with these guys. Also, at 2 p.m., prior to the opening for the VIPs, Jim Cornette will be doing a live Jim Cornette experience. A little Q&A session. You got a question you want to ask Jim Cornette, show up at the Sendera Center, ask it, and he might answer it. I can speak from personal experience. You ask Jim Cornette a question, you better be prepared for an answer. It may not be the answer you want to get, but you better be prepared for an answer.
I'm glad you said that because he had his way with you for a little bit there when you were interviewing him. Now, on Facebook a few days ago, for our fans in the Fort Worth, Texas area, that if they're still kind of thinking about it or hee-hawing about going to see Old School Hustle, you need to get your tickets now. Dave announced that they're going to be adding more seats in the building. I mean, right now, tickets are just flying off the shelf as we speak. So expect a jam-packed crowd for this evening of wrestling. It's going to be fantastic. And as for me, it's all about professional wrestling, sports entertainment. Mike, you know what I think about that. Don't get me started. For you fans of professional wrestling, you need to be at this show on the 28th, Old School Hustle. It's going to be fun, and especially when you have guys like Jim Cornette, Stan Hansen, the whole bowl of wax. We can talk about this for a month of Sundays.
I think we have been talking about this for a month of Sundays because that's what David tells us to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to get fired one of these days, guys. Joe, you're going to be the new host of this show. David's going to kick my ass out of here. But I like to have a little fun with David. But, yes, it's going to be a great show. I'm starting this again. Once again, September 28th, Fort Worth, Texas, at the Sendera Center, IHWE Old School Hustle. I think we all got it all figured out now. And, yes, Joe, I understand your love of all things sports entertainment. Sadly enough, the older I get, I'm starting to agree with you because, once again, I sat down and thought I'd watch Monday Night Raw. Brian, did you happen to see Raw this Monday night?
No, I didn't.
Oh, Joe, did you see it?
No. Lucky us, I take it.
Of course you didn't. Oh, God, yes. I have to talk about this for just a second. And I can't really say I have a lot of experience of this because I only did the referee thing once a few weeks ago. But Cameron versus Naomi. The Funkadactyls, you got your match going. We all know Cameron is the whatever you want to say, full of herself. She's the heel. She's facing Naomi. She does her big split kick move where she does the leg drop down, and she tells the referee, count it, count it. She's yelling at the referee 3 times to count it. The referee's looking at her. She's yelling, count it. Here's the slight problem. Naomi is lying on her stomach. Yeah. She's lying face down on the mat. Cameron's got her leg across top of her and telling the referee to count the pin. Then she realizes that Naomi is on her stomach, flips her over, covers her with the leg, and then yells at the referee to count the pin.
Well, Mike, as you can hear Brian and myself, I think we just gave our opinion.
Yeah,
no disrespect, of course.
No. I mean, I have all the respect for, what they do in the ring and all that, but, yeah, pin the shoulders to the mat, 1, 2, 3. Ever laying on her stomach and put your leg over and tell the referee to count, and he's just going to look at you like you're stupid. So it definitely did make for an interesting little spot. Luckily, there was nothing with the Bellas. They had a tag match. It was Bree and a partner versus Nikki and a partner, obviously. I don't know who the partners were. I left the kitchen during the match. In fact, my 3-year-old son kept yelling at me, "No, Daddy, I don't want to watch it." So I thought that was great.
Good man.
He wanted to see, yes. He wanted to see Bray Wyatt and the Big Show go at it some more. He didn't want to see Bree and Nikki Bella with their tag partners or whatever fighting. So I thought that was kind of funny.
I mean, all joking aside, I have the utmost respect for anybody that plies their trade in the business. It's just the way things are done now. I mean, for our fans out there, I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling. I've always considered myself a professional wrestling play-by-play commentator, not a storyteller. And being that said, that's why I am so looking forward to the 28th, which and actually, I've called hundreds of matches, but this time it's going to be on the podcast, on the radio, so it's going to be quite the experience, because basically the fans are going to actually try to envision with their ears, kind of picture what's going on, and it's going to be really exciting. And Mike, we have yet to do a little bit of work with you working on the color commentating there.
We haven't done any work with me doing the color commentary side of it, so I'm just going to sit there, look pretty, and I'll throw my opinion out there, I guess. I've seen enough TV. I think I can wing it, I hope. So
pretty.
If you tune in on the 28th to listen, well, I got to look pretty. Come on.
Okay.
I mean, it's radio, but, I've got a face for radio. Jeez.
Yes, you do. So do I.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody got the joke. But sadly enough, I will be on IHWE TV out of the Old School Hustle taping, so people are going to see the host of the show, and they may never tune in again. We'll see. But upcoming episodes of IHWE Radio, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, next week, Austin has a special guest lined up for us. Still working on a few little details. He hasn't told me exactly who it is yet, so hopefully we have a guest on the 24th. According to Austin, we do. I'm still talking with him, so we're good to go. October 1st, programming note, there will be no IHWE Radio that Wednesday night. That is the day that I will be celebrating my 42nd birthday with some friends and family, and I just don't want to be on the radio. I want to go out and do something for fun. So September 28th will be our live podcast from Old School Hustle, and that will be our show for the week. We will return, though, October 8th, the legendary, the original Mr. Wonderful Brock Riddle. And I'm telling you right now, that is the best introduction I'm going to give the man, because I know for a fact that he will then take over the show, introduce himself, interview himself, sign off, and he might even close the show for us, too. Rock is definitely an interesting character, and, yeah, he has claimed he was able to do a 2-hour interview on a radio show by himself. He asked himself the questions, and he answered them. If anybody heard our show...
careful what you're getting yourself into, folks.
Yeah. So if you tune in on October 8th a little bit late and you don't hear us and you hear some other strange voice, that would be Rock Riddle. Sit back, listen to the man. He will tell us some enjoyable stories. If you heard our show at the CAC reunion, I introduced him. And like I said, he reintroduced himself, spoke for about 10 minutes. David didn't ask one single question. I didn't ask one single question. And he said the pleasure was all ours, handed me back the microphone, and off he went. That was Rock Riddle.
Guys, consider this a night off. And I mean that in a good way. This will be a lot of fun.
We might get a question in there.
How are you, Mr. Riddle? That's the question. How are you, Mr.
Riddle? How are you doing tonight? And we go. Yes, exactly. October 15th, we're going to be joined by Art Cruz. He has a book out called We Made Him Look Good. You can find that book on Amazon.com. I've had a chance to thumb through it a little bit, got some great stories to it, so he will be on here to talk about his career. Joe, you know a little bit more about Art Cruz than I do. I'm sure Brian has all sorts of historical information about Art Cruz. I will admit the main thing I used to know about him, I've learned more about him over time, the main thing I knew about him was that he was actually the first opponent for a young man named Shawn Michaels. That was the only thing I knew about Art Cruz at one point. I have since learned a lot more, read a lot more about him through his book, so looking forward to that interview. And let's see, October...
I did not know that.
22nd? You did not know that?
I did not know that his first opponent, that was... I did not know that. That's very good. That's cool.
Did you know that, Brian?
Uh-uh.
You didn't know that either?
Nope.
Woo! Yes.
Got one on us there, Bob.
Yes. Shawn Michaels' first opponent was Art Cruz. I knew that. I think I read it on Wikipedia, but I didn't know that. Yeah, that was in Mid-South. Not sure where it was, but yeah, that was his first opponent. So, anyways, October 22nd, we're going. Yes.
That might have been either Kansas City or San Antonio. Can't remember.
Yeah,
anyway.
somewhere. I was about to think of the same thing. Yeah. October 22nd, we are going to be joined by Kevin Von Erich and his sons Ross and Marshall, Von Erich 3G. They will be taking part in a stellar card November 1st. The David Von Erich Memorial Tag Match, I think, is what they're going to be participating in. Their opponents are the American Wolves from TNA are going to be their opponents that night. So they will be on to talk about the upcoming match and basically a little bit about their career and just what it's like to be, I think I'd like to know from them what it's like to wrestle under the Von Erich name. Because there's a lot of pressure on that. That's a major name in professional wrestling. We had Kevin on here back in February, but we did not get a chance to talk with Ross and Marshall, so I am definitely looking forward to that interview. And on October 29th, we will be joined by Del Wilkes. He was the last AWA Tag Team Champion with DJ Peterson, wrestling as the Trooper. He also worked in Global, WCW, WWF. I think he might have even done an ECW spot once or twice as the Patriot. So he will be joining us and all that. And if anybody has read any of Mike Mooneyham's columns recently, he definitely has a story to tell outside of the ring. Had a few problems here and there, but he's come back from that, and now he's trying to, be a role model for that. So he's definitely got a great story. So another great show that night. And we are currently booking guests for November. We have some stuff set up for December, and then we roll into 2015, and I don't have a clue what we're going to do. But we'll figure it out. And hold on just a moment. Let me check my studio here. Live radio, ladies and gentlemen. I have to look on my computer to see who I got calling in. I think
speaking of which, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. Okay, well, I was going to say about Bill Wilkes. It'll be really interesting to talk to Mr. Wilkes. For our fans, that followed, the business several years back as the Patriot. He was in a pay-per-view main event for the title against Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yes. Patriot actually did a lot of things. I mean, WCW, he was part of Stars and Stripes, I believe it was, with Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Went on to WWF and did a lot there. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a great interview. And speaking of interviews, as I said, we are being joined at this time by our guest tonight. He is a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Joe, Brian, and I, we all had the chance to meet him just a couple months ago at the CAC reunion in Las Vegas, Nevada. Ladies and gentlemen, we are being joined on IHWE Radio by the Tokyo Monster Kahagas. How are you doing tonight?
Good, guys. How you doing tonight?
Good.
Oh, we're doing
well.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. Definitely.
Oh, anytime. I had a chance back in the past a couple times listen to you when you were on Johnny Mantel's radio show. So definitely want to have you on as a guest because I know you've got some interesting stories to tell, and you've had quite a career so far. So speaking of that, we'll just go with the best opening question. How did you get into the business, and who were your original trainers?
How'd I get in? Man, I didn't just walk into a building and look for a place to wrestle, I mean, there's a lot of different places, that are convenient in the cities and towns. All you got to do is kind of follow indie wrestling and, you can find a place to train. And pretty much when I got in, the internet was pretty much a new thing, and I live in an area where, stuff like that's not available, and like a big city or something where you can kind of scout around. So I was kind of more or less left in the dark, and just I looked around for about a year or so, and I knew there was a couple of them, a few wrestlers that lived in my area. So, it wasn't just like, you could just look them up on Facebook or something, find them. So, eventually I ran into them, talked to them a little bit, but I ran into Tyree Pride. Tyree Pride was a big part of it. He was I seen him working one day, and I just stopped and talked to him for about an hour or so. And he just told me just to keep doing it and keep looking and find something. And eventually I did about a year later. So it took me about a year just to even, get my foot in the door or even near a ring. Because pretty much, when it comes to indie wrestling, I didn't know nothing about indie wrestling. I knew there was I grew up in the era with Florida Championship Wrestling and Championship Wrestling from Florida and NWA Florida and all those times where it was still, more of a secretive business and it, a little bit harder to get into and wasn't something you could just find on any corner like a convenience store nowadays. But so a local sheriff here, he was a former worker, and I contacted him, and he said he had a ring available that I could use and do whatever I wanted with it. And so I did. I went out there, and when I stepped in the ring, I was in an orange grove, and when I stepped in the ring, the bottom rope snapped, and the ring was about at the same level as the ground. So it had been sitting there for years. But this was an old Florida Championship Wrestling ring. Some of the greats had been in it, and it was cool to be, look at this thing and look at these rings nowadays. I still haven't seen a ring like it yet. But anyway, I rebuilt the ring and got a hold of Tyree again, and he came out, and then we just kind of went into it, and the sheriff would come out and work with me, and, eventually some more or less like the retired independent guys would come around. And, I was working with guys from the 70s till, the late 90s, their era. And I'd cry uncle, man. They'd get in there, and I'd, like the sheriff, let me try something like this on you. Man, all I could do was I couldn't do nothing but scream, but I just kept going back, and finally, after about a year and a half of training, I found a show and went and worked it, and and that's pretty much where I kind of walked into the business. But I dealt with a lot of, on my way in, once I got going, I pretty much looked around for other schools and people to help train me and stuff like that. And John Tennant at that time was opening up a wrestling school, and Earthquake John Tent's up, and it was about 3 hours away from me. And I'd go up there 2-3 times a week and work with him and Prince IK and Mike Hayner. And, then eventually Mike would actually come down here and train with me in my ring. And, gave me a lot of one-on-one and, lots of, just a lot of experience. Knowledge come from people that, like that you can just learn off of and whatever it takes and helps get you in this business and help succeed. But then eventually, dealing with people like Tyree and a lot of the old Florida guys, Hector Guerrero became a good friend of mine, and I'd get in there, and he was a good mentor, and he'd work with me, and the knowledge of some of these guys in this business is just incredible. But yeah, that's pretty much where I started. I started at the bottom, man. Didn't know nothing about independent wrestling. I just kind of figured it out, and I just kept doing whatever I needed to do.
Joe, do you have a question?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned John Tenta, because I'm a big fan of him, rest his soul, and the style he had when he wrestled in Japan and up in Canada, and then when he did the Earthquake gimmick in New York. Very versatile performer. My question is, what was it like to train with him, to work with him? Because I know that his style and Hector Guerrero, Prince Ukea, all three gentlemen, their styles are they're different, diverse, if you will.
Well, honestly, I see your point. If you needed to, tackle, drop down, hip toss, arm drag, he'd do it. The guy was huge, but he could still go, man. He was definitely an athlete, and there's a reason why he's done all he's done. But, just to be able to, associate and work with these guys that's so young in the business, it was it's always a great experience, and and like you said, he's very versatile, and there's tons of different styles that are out there, and everybody's got their own thing, and which was kind of cool with me because I've always been like, I was always told you got to be able to wrestle anybody, you got to be able to do whatever with anybody. So I didn't really look at it like that. I kind of looked at it as just doing what I needed to do, and if that's the way it is, then you ain't got to think about it. You just got to do what you're supposed to do. So, but yeah, it's definitely cool, man.
Brian, did you have a question?
Talking with you again. It was great to meet you in person, to see you wrestle in the ring in Vegas as part of the CAC. But, of course, on November 2nd, 2012, in Clayton, New Jersey, you got to make history. You became the 9th individual to be part. It was originally an 8-man tournament, but it was a 9-man tournament for the vacant National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Championship. And you were also on the History of the National Wrestling Alliance wonderful documentary that Michael Elliott did. And I was wondering, what were your thoughts on that night and what was going through your mind becoming the champion that night?
It was it happened so fast, and when I say that, I mean, I literally didn't know, I was actually scheduled to be booked in Texas that particular weekend and that night, and I was in Texas at that time, and as far as I knew, I was supposed to be in New Jersey the next day, so it was kind of just an impromptu, and I hopped on a plane, flew up there, and just, went in there to do what I had to do. But, I mean, yeah, there was a point, that, I mean, I don't really let things go to my head, and, I realized what I've done, but, I mean, to me it's still, like, it wasn't real, I mean, it was, but, it wasn't. But, I do recall at one time during that night that it just popped in my head as I'm fixing to become NWA World Champion. And I can remember that plain as day, and it was definitely a odd feeling to be able to be looked at that level, and in this business I've always wanted to accomplish just whatever I could, get the most I possibly could out of it, and learn, and always try to do better and go forward, and that was just sometimes I say to people, when people say, if you're in the right place at the right time, or, in the right position for something, things can happen. I mean, I don't owe all the credit to that, but I look at that, and then I would have to say that I guess I was the one that was looked at to be there. So, I was very fortunate and very proud, and very, very appreciative of what all came out of it. And but yeah, definitely, man. I just feel fortunate.
One quick follow-up question. Now, the man who defeated you, Rob Conway, and of course he regained the belt back in June. Conway is going to face IHWE heavyweight champion Matt Riviera this Saturday in Sherman, Texas. So, what was it like to face Conway in the ring?
I just took it like it was anybody else. I mean, he's an incredible athlete and a great talent, and there's, there again, there's another, there's a reason why he's succeeded in what he's done. But it was great, a great experience, and I'd love to do it again someday.
Now, I've seen some of your footage on YouTube and all that. Got a chance to see some stuff. When you come to the ring, you have a very imposing presence with the outfit and the entrance and all that. How did you come up with the gimmick that you now work with? Because, I mean, like I said, it's an amazing look.
Well, I mean, if you're going to be a monster, you got to be a monster, I mean, it's one of those things, and to me, a gimmick is, exactly what it's called. It's a gimmick. It's a character. It's, and you have to become what it is. And I guess guess I mean, yeah, I'm supposed to be, you know, kind of I guess scary, but that's fine. You know, I mean, that's just what I do, and that's the you know, the gimmick that came along, and I was given the name actually, Tokyo Monster, before I was more or less like Japanese Nightmare. Kahagas, I did that for, you know, quite a while, and then I was billed by Hugo Savinovich as the Tokyo Monster. So, and then with that going, and with you know, my ring attire and everything I use, I just pretty much put it all together. And you know, like I said, you gotta be who you are.
Now
quick follow-up.
Okay.
Sorry, Joe. Quick follow-up. The first time you came out with the whole, because you have the headdress and you had the robe and all that, what was the audience reaction to it?
You know, I don't. It's I guess there's the oohs and ahs always. You know, I mean, it's pretty cool when coming out there and you get a little ooh and ah. You know, so I guess that means it's kind of working. But yeah, I mean, it's just I pay attention to the crowd, but you know, I'm focused on what I got to do too. So I mean, you know, it's all about, you know, I mean, it's all part of it, every bit of it, from walking out that curtain to the time you walk back in. It's all about the crowd. So that's how I look at it, and that's the way it should be.
Now, whether if a wrestler is in Japan, here in the States, or elsewhere, one of the most difficult things to achieve is to become a Triple Crown winner. And I have on my notes that, I mean, we know that you were the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. I have you down holding the NWA North American Heavyweight title, as well as the National Heavyweight title, which makes you an NWA Triple Crown winner, and very, very prestigious. Also, I read that in the 2013 Pro Wrestling Illustrated PWI 500, you were 165. Very, very high number up there. You know, I know the accolades. You know, they're very, very good. How do you feel about, you know, things like that? You know, when you see your name in a national magazine like that, and you know, when it's all said and done, you know, you realize, wow, you know, Triple Crown winner. Because I know that, you know, you're going through the motions, you're busy defending the title, but you know, after a while, you have to kind of sit back and say, wow, I held those 3 titles. That's, you know, something's got to kind of kick in your head somewhat.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, probably one of the biggest things I've ever accomplished in this business, for sure. You know, being able to accomplish that was just, you know, an incredible thing, something that was never even thought of or you know, popped in my head. And when they, you know, when it happened, you know, it's still kind of, you know, I think about it and I realize, yes, I'm the only one and the first one, so it's you know, I mean, I don't know what else to do. I can't sit here and dance for joy, you know. I mean, it's just right. Wow. It's just all like wow, you know. And same way with being world champion, you know. That's the same thing, or national, or North American, or you know, or anything like that. That actually, to me, I mean, this business, I take this business very serious. And, you know, what this business was and in the past of the business, I still look, you know, I take it very serious. Every inch and point of it I do. And I've always tried hard and I'd work as much as I possibly could. And I'd have to say that I really did bust my ass, you know, and I didn't have nothing handed to me. No one bought me nothing. You know, no one, you know, gave me nothing. I earned every bit of it. And, you know, to me, that's, you know, I was the guy that when I got started, I was like, oh, man, I get in for 5 years, you know, that's all right. And, you know, and then you think, oh, well, I'd like to, you know, I'd be cool with just being known on the indie scene, you know, just around Florida or something. And then, you know, the next thing is oh, man, I'd like to be in that PWI. You know, it just seems like there was always something you wanted more and more. And I would have never thought that I would have, you know, became world champion or, you know, or either won national or North American titles. I was just there. I am again. I just, like I said, I feel very fortunate, and I respect every part of this business that comes along with those belts. And you know, anytime I've been, you know, associated with title defenses or representing the NWA or those belts, I did put it, you know, pushed into that just as much as I did as achieving as far as I wanted in the business.
You certainly have been around extensive time in Florida as well as other promotions. What was it like how did you think of being in Jersey Championship Wrestling, Full Impact Pro when they started out in Florida? You wrestled some interesting talent there, especially FIP. Of course, they were a sister promotion to Ring of Honor. So you got to go up against a number of guys who became big names. What are your thoughts?
You know, FIP was, definitely, it was a sister promotion of Ring of Honor. And when they started out, Sal just pretty much started from the ground up and just came in and put something together. And you know, it was more of an old school format at first when they first started. When I say that, I mean, we had like Mike Awesome, New Jack, Dusty Rhodes, and, you know, just a whole mix of different type of wrestlers pretty much started with FIP. And then, you know, the format kind of changed and went more into the Ring of Honor style, or, you know, the younger, you know, top independent guys that were, you know, around at that time. And you know, I was, you know, lucky to be part of both little pieces of that. And I worked for FIP for, you know, I committed to FIP as long as I could. And then I just had a lot more other stuff, you know, coming up. I mean, working with FIP, you know, I did get a lot of exposure. And, you know, along with, you know, that's had something to do with the Florida Jersey Championship Wrestling at that one time, too. And, you know, basically it was just, you know, it was, like I said, it was a stepping stone. I went and got a chance to work in Ring of Honor, too, you know, at the time as I was working with FIP at the same time. So, you know, it definitely made a difference. You know, it's a good little start. I mean, I was probably in the business, you know, probably 4 years, 4 years, or maybe even more than that, you know, before FIP came around. But I started with them when they opened up shop, though, definitely.
Do you remember facing Sean Sheridan in Jersey Championship Wrestling over the light heavyweight title there?
Yes, I did. I do recall him. That was in, I believe, Clearwater, Florida, and we were doing a joint show with, actually, I think it was a triple show. It was the FIP and
JCW, LXW.
JCW and LXW, yeah. It was a Lucha company and a Jersey company and FIP. Yeah, definitely. I think that was a double shot weekend, too.
Yep, you had won the JCW lightweight title from him. It was in April 9th and 10th of 2004.
Yeah, I believe I was the last guy to hold that until they reopened, too.
Now, you had a chance you worked up in Portland. Definitely a lot of history on that one. You worked with the Grappler up there for a little bit. What was it like working in that territory and getting a chance to work with the Grappler? He's been a guest on our show previously and definitely one of the old school veterans on. What was it like working up there?
Definitely a different perspective on wrestling up there. It's just, I guess it's just kind of looking at the weather and the way it is up there. It just seems so dark, you know. But working with the Grappler, I mean, he's definitely a legend in this business to me, and he loves this business, and he's steadily training guys on a daily basis and steadily dipping his feet into something on a daily basis, you know, as far as this business goes, and being able to work with him and him manage me, that was a great thing. Definitely a learning experience and a lot of things. He's you know, somebody just to learn from and like you said, he's been around for a long time, and you know, I can't put nothing past Lenny. I talk to him on a regular basis. We've been pretty good friends. You know, but like I said, to have someone like that on your side is a definite plus. And you know, I guess there's reason. Maybe they see something as much as you see in them. You know, and actually, I'm going back out to Portland in December 5th, 6th, and 7th out for West Coast Wrestling Connection. 3 days, and I'll be managed by Lenny out there, the grappler, and I believe I'll be back out there about once a month. So I'm looking forward to getting back out in that area.
You know, that's what I was going to mention. I read a deal where Lenny mentioned on Facebook and YouTube that you were going back up in December to be part of Grappler's Wrecking Crew, and with such a stellar stable, I mean, you guys are guaranteed to wreak havoc over the competition.
Well, that's why they're bringing me in.
Now, the current state, you were talking when we first did our, when we introduced you there, you're talking about when you broke in, there wasn't Facebook, the internet was just getting started. What's your opinion on the current, like, indie scene as far as, like, training and able to break into the business? Because it seems like now everywhere you go, somebody has a school, whether or not they're reputable or it's kind of up in the air, but it seems a lot easier now than it was when you came in.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Yeah, there's so many schools out there. It's almost like anybody can be a wrestler and anybody can open up a school as long as you got a ring and a place to put it. I just always looked at it as, well, if you want to be a professional wrestler, you need to be trained by a professional, and you need to be trained by a wrestler. You know, not somebody that's been training for, 6 months, 9 months, or, even a couple of years. I've been in the business close to 18 years now, and every time, regardless what it is, talking to somebody or just watching a video or working or being in a match or anything involved with it, I'm constantly learning something. It might be nothing big, but I mean, there's always something. And just getting around and bouncing around and doing things, that's just not, doing moves. It's not, part of wrestling really. There's a lot more to it, and to me, the gimmick, the gimmicks and the psychology of it is what makes all come alive. Because, like I said, the first people you're out to impress is the people in the crowd. Because if the people aren't in the crowd, then you don't have a place to wrestle. So that, foremost, that's the most important thing there is. And a lot of people don't look at that. They don't even acknowledge them. They don't even recognize that there's a crowd there. And it's one of those things. If you speak to them, you acknowledge them, they will acknowledge you. That's all they want. And the psychology of the business is something where, I didn't have it. I didn't have it for years. I work matches with, veterans that, that just blew right through and did it. And after that match, I'd be like, man, that was just weird. It didn't seem like it did much, but it all meant something, and especially working with any TV or anything like that, you can just do so little, but yet it means so much. And I was told, for a long time, a good buddy of mine named Hack Myers and Dave Johnson, one of the Blackhearts, they were good friends of mine here in the Indies, and they pretty much retired now. But they always told me, so you get it one day. And when you get it, that you're going to know it. And man, it took years, 8 or 10 years, just to be able to understand what the psychology was about and to how to do it. And so, I mean, and once I got it. And to me, it's just like, that's what I base every match on, is psychology. Regardless of what you do, to me, it's what they see. And with those guys, being on the road, those two guys for so long, they're so old school and just varying, in other words, they'll tell you what's going to happen in 6 months before it happens. And, the gaining knowledge off of them, I learned a lot from from those two, and I credit a lot of my my work and stuff like that towards them too.
Now,
Brian,
being in the
do you have a
business.
question? Oh, sorry, Joe.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, the floor is yours, Joe.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Being that you've been in the business for 18 years and, been to old school, been part of the old school, and now, hypothetically, if you had an opportunity to, kind of like a fantasy match, if you will, who would you pick in his prime as your dream match?
Man, that's like probably one of the hardest questions there is. I mean, there's so many great wrestlers out there that I look up to, and have been fortunate to be able in the ring with a few of them. But I couldn't just pick a certain somebody. I mean, it's just there's no way. I was the guy. I was the guy I watched. Loved Kevin Sullivan and the Road Warriors and Wahoo McDaniels. And, just all that. The Wyndhams and it was just I've always just been happy in this business to be able to say that I was in the ring with these particular people, or I've been able to sit down and eat dinner with these people and know and meet these people, and I never looked at it as like I said, I just couldn't choose. I wouldn't be able to tell you who would be my dream match. I mean, I couldn't even have one pop in my head. I was hoping one would, but it didn't.
Understood.
Probably one automatically comes to mind was like they could just picture you in Japan, especially the glory days of New Japan Pro Wrestling, well, at least in the 90s, because I'm just picturing Masahiro Chono going up against the Great Muta. I mean, you against the Great Muta, that would have been cool, or against Hakushi, Jinsei Shinzaki, and of course Hakushi of WWE fame. But yeah,
right.
and of course, Muta. Well, yeah, Muta actually spent time in Florida before he went back to New Japan to get his big push.
Sure.
Yeah,
and Nagasaki were out here, and I was a big fan of them. I mean, why shouldn't I be? Really. Mm-hmm. But I get a lot of people say somewhat the same thing about those particular guys, and I mean, there's a lot of resemblance there. I mean, one of the resemblances, I paint my face, and other than that, I don't really do anything else the same. I mean, I don't blow green mist, I don't blow any mist, and my style is, so much more different than any of those guys. But, I mean, there's that resemblance, and, people kind of take off of that just because I paint my face, and I'm Japanese, and it just kind of, I guess our builds are somewhat the same to an extent, and, so, I mean, there's always going to be somebody, comparing you with somebody. But, yeah, I mean, shoot, I mean, if I were to choose out of them, yeah, I'd hop in the ring with any of them. Sounds great to me.
All right, we're going to have to wrap this interview up, unfortunately. Are there any upcoming dates that you'd like to mention to the listeners now? And how can they find you on social media if they'd like to follow more about you?
All right, well, let's see. Friday night, we got NWA Saw, Millersville, Tennessee. That's, what is that date? September 19th in Millersville, and then the next night I'll be at the Crockett Cup for NWA Worldwide over in Castle Hayne, North Carolina. Come check us out over there. That should be a good show, definitely. I guess they're having a big tag team tournament out there, and I'm facing Lou Marconi for the national title. And then other than that, I've got NWA Signature Pro with Florida Underground, Friday the 26th in Tampa, and then actually I'll be back out in Texas in November 1st. Well, no, I got Coastal Championship Wrestling on the 18th, on October 18th, and Brian Blair Luncheon on the 19th, and then we have Southwest Wrestling out in Sulphur Springs, Texas. Big card out there on November 1st. So I'm looking forward to that, getting back out in Texas. And then on the following day, November 2nd, I'll be in Laredo, Texas for Laredo Wrestling Alliance. So that's pretty much what I got going on. It's just popped off the top of my head, but, there's a lot of stuff in between, too. So.
Do you have a Facebook page or Twitter that someone can follow you on if they want to learn more about any more upcoming dates?
Yeah, I do got a Twitter. I don't really use it much. I'm not really into it, but it's Tokyo Monster 10. And as far as Facebook, you can just type in Tokyo Monster, one word, or, just Tokyo Monster Cahagas, and I'll pop up somewhere. I got a couple fan sites out there, too.
All right, well, thank you for joining us, and we'll hopefully have you on here again sometime down the road. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more as you get going up towards Oregon again to work with West Coast Wrestling Connection. Joe and I have worked for Jeff Manning in the past, so we know him well. And hope you do well out in the road. And once again, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you all having me. It's been a good time. Hope to do it again, though, sometime soon. Thanks.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody. That was the Tokyo Monster Cahagas. Definitely a name out there on the independent scene, former NWA heavyweight champion, as Joe said, listed in the PWI 500 at one point there. 165, I believe you said it was, right, Joe?
Yeah, 165, and also remember he was an NWA Triple Crown winner.
So, yeah, we'll definitely have him on again. I hope he enjoys his time up in Oregon because, as I said, Joe, you and I have worked with Mr. Manning in the past, and, he puts on a good show. So,
yes,
Mr. Manning. Kind of like Mr. McMahon. But anyways, we're going to keep the show rolling here. I'm looking forward to this. I gave this man the invitation to come on tonight and give us his opinions on the situation between David Fuller and Matt Riviera, and he has agreed to join us tonight. And also joining us at this time is David Fuller. David, how are we doing tonight? Hello? Wrong answer. Let me get this again.
Hello, how's it going? Hello.
I got you.
Oh, there you are.
I hit the wrong one there for a second.
I
hit the wrong button.
How's it going?
That was my bad. Going good, man. As I said, Morgan's going to call in tonight, going to give us his opinion on the situation between you and Matt. But I thought at this point in time, I'd kind of give you the floor for a second to kind of state your side of the story first before we bring Morgan on to kind of fill us in on his details.
Well, I haven't gotten into the situation with me and Matt because the show and the promotion is bigger than a personal vendetta. This isn't a personal vendetta. I think it's a big miscommunication. Matt is a skilled competitor. He is a very well-conditioned athlete, and he is one of the top guys in North America wrestling. As an entrepreneur, he has done so many good things. He has brought an old school type of wrestling back to the forefront with traditional championship wrestling. It's still on television in numerous markets. He's done a lot of good things, but lately it's been marred. It's been marred by some of the shortcomings and the shortcuts he's been taking when he doesn't need to. This isn't me coming on here saying Matt Riviera has to take a shortcut to win. Matt Riviera doesn't have to. He's very skilled. I don't know why he chooses to take the shortcuts that he does, but nonetheless, he donated, along with TCW, a pretty good chunk of things to Bobby Fulton during WrestleMania weekend at the Mid-South Relations Fan Fest. And when we struck our deal, I made him the IHWE champion because, I've been following Matt Riviera for years, and I thought it was a good catch. I was warned immediately by numerous people, including Morgan, and I've been around for a little bit too. I think that's what everybody seems to forget is I've been around a lot longer than a lot of guys, And, I was like, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, we're going to go on this ride. Matt's my champion, and we'll see what happens and see what others had warned me about. Back at the IHWE experience on IHWE television, which is on demand currently right now at IHWE's YouTube page, which is IHWE 2009. New episode tonight at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. He put his hands on me after a tag team match, which he and Tim Storm lost, and they decided to assault numerous superstars, and I went to the ring to try to, cool the waters down and tell the troops that it was over, and then I was thrown out of the ring. Immediately, that just bothered me because I suffered a concussion because of that, and that's something I haven't publicly come out with, and because I'm a 33-year-old man, I can take it. It's not my first rodeo. When I was thrown out of the ring, I went headfirst into the guardrail. But Matt, called me the next day, left me a voicemail saying he apologized. But since then, Matt's been saying in interviews that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't need to be in the ring. I need to just sit back and watch the money come in. And something about stupid Texas pride, Matt has said in interviews and to other people. I know he's rubbed Jim Cornette the wrong way at the Mid-Atlantic Fan Fest in Charlotte last month. He's rubbed Morgan the wrong way. He's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So, we are going to have a face-to-face. I have not used social media to track Matt Riviera. He has a big NWA World Heavyweight Championship match in about 48 hours. And I hope Matt wins the NWA World Heavyweight title. Matt has a lot of people in his corner. He has J.J. Dillon in his corner. J.J. Dillon's one of the greatest managers of all time. Matt is the old school, he is the old school wrestler if there ever was one. He reminds me of Flair when Flair was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Matt Riviera will do everything in his power to win, and Matt Riviera will do everything in his power to stay in power. It does not matter who it is. We're going to have a face-to-face next Sunday at the IHWE Old School Hustle on the biggest stage in IHWE history. And I'm hoping that we can shake hands, and Matt will defend that title that night against whoever the office team fit. Black Bart has thrown in a contender. Cornette, who is going to be the guest commissioner for the night. Black Bart will also be commissioner, but Jim Cornette's going to be helping. He's also throwing in a contender, and I have a couple of contenders myself. But, I don't know what's going to happen in this. We won't actually be assigning a world championship match until September 28th. There will not be a night off from Mr. Riviera, I can guarantee you that. Hopefully he'll be walking in with 2 titles. I don't wish anything bad on Matt Riviera. I hope at Old School Hustle we will come in the ring face-to-face and like gentlemen, like professionals, like 2 entrepreneurs, and like 2 of the most important individuals in this business that we are, and I can say that. I hope we will shake hands, and Matt will be the champion that I know he can be. If he decides to take another shortcut, then I am prepared more than I've ever been, because the mistake people have made is I've been around some of the best in this business. I spent a week with Maniac Matt Bourne. I was trained by Johnny Valentine. I spent time with Killer Carl Cox. I spent time with General Skandar Akbar, the Doctor of Style, Slick. Time with some of the best and also some of the dirtiest that there is in this business. I can handle anything. So let me just make that clear. Matt, I hope you're listening. I know you're in training, and that's why you're not on the show tonight. And Morgan has got his opinions, and he's allowed to express them. And I respect Morgan. Morgan's put in a lot of time, and he's doing some good things with the CAC. But Matt, I hope that on Sunday, September 28th, when you come to Fort Worth, we will sit down like men because we haven't talked since the experience, since the day after, since the phone call. We haven't talked. I hope we will sit down, both in the locker room and when we get out to the ring. You say what you want to say. I'll say what I want to say. We shake hands, and then we go from there, and we continue to do business. Because I think Matt Revere is great for business. I think he's a fantastic champion, but he does things that he shouldn't have to do. There was a situation in Alabama. He was supposed to defend the title against Americos, and then the belt somehow is missing before the match, but then turns up at the end of the night when Americos pinned him 1, 2, 3. There's things like that don't need to be done. There's things like him throwing me out of the ring. There's things like attacking people after the bell. Doesn't need to happen. So there's also things like him getting involved in Tim Storm's match against Spoiler 2000. Well, Tim Storm's got a match on September 28th. He's going to be teaming up with a guy who was a Pro Wrestling Noah alumni for 3 years, Bruiser Bull Schmidt, one of the biggest and baddest. And they're going to take on Spoiler 2000 and a mystery partner. So Tim Storms has got his hands full that night. There's going to be a lot of people there. There's going to be Stan Hansen. There's going to be Lynn Denton. Come in front of your idols, in front of the people you have admittedly looked up to me, and shake my hand, and let's do business. Let's do what Matt Bourne wanted us to do. If not, then we'll do something else. So, but that's what I got to say about it. Like I said, I haven't spoken publicly about it because I'm running a business, and there's so much good stuff happening with IHWE. I don't use social media as a personal. I don't air out my grievances in public. Me and Matt, like I said, we talked after the IHWE experience, but we have not talked since then. And I know he's been touring and training for Rob Conway, who he will wrestle this Friday night in Sherman, Texas, for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, and I hope he wins. And then he will walk into Old School Hustle with 2 titles. And if he does, I think it's great. But anyway, it's a big show. We'll be back on next week. I'm gonna get off here and let Morgan say what he has to say out of respect. At 10 o'clock tonight, we have a big IHWE TV. Tonight, if you are a fan of the Global Wrestling Federation or the Confederate Wrestling Association or the Continental Wrestling Association, you will love tonight's episode because when Kevin Cross, the 7-foot colossal Kevin Cross, takes on Major Mark, Black Bart and Doyle King will return to the commentary booth. That's right. Tonight at 10 o'clock, you get to hear Doyle King back behind the microphone on television, on commentary for a wrestling show for the first time in years, and he will be joined by Black Bart. Also tonight, you're going to get to see the saga unfold between Miss Dyslexia, Peyton Gate, and Delilah Doom as they get set to join Jessica James in a Queen of the Ring tournament next Sunday night at Old School Hustle. And in tonight's main event, Brian Ryder, a founding father of IHWE, steps on the boots for the last time. He's going to take on Gigolo James Johnson, a Texas favorite. Also, this coming Saturday night, we have another edition of IHWE TV, Saturday Night Wrestling, back from Dallas, Fort Worth, one night only on our YouTube channel. You're going to get to see Thomas Shire, the Terry Gordy Memorial Cup winner. He's going to take on the Mind of Wrestling, JT LaMotta, and the chaotic and shocking result of the match between Main Event Mike Fox and the Blackheart Special. Rick Manning, referee Rick Manning, was assaulted, and Black Bart nearly lost it and nearly physically got involved. That situation will be addressed as well on September 28th, and I'm happy to report that James Beard will be at Old School Hustle, along with Rick Manning and along with Morgan, and we will have a lot of officials there that night. So, anyway, check out IHWE TV. Folks, IHWEnow.com, the front page has all your Old School Hustle information. We're taking ticket orders until Friday night at 10 o'clock. If you want to pre-order tickets for Old School Hustle, you need to get them in before Friday at 10 o'clock, because next week we will be filling orders up from this past week, and that is it. Any other tickets will have to be bought the day of at the gate. But if you want VIP tickets, I suggest you get on the ball and get these tickets ordered. Michael, did you have anything else for me?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up, boss.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night. IHWE TV at 10 o'clock tonight. See you guys next Sunday for Old School Hustle.
Thank you, David. All right. We heard David's side of what's going on here. Now we're going to bring on the CAC's Executive Vice President-elect, Morgan Dollar, who has been patiently waiting to give his opinions on Matt Riviera. Morgan, how are you doing tonight?
For 15 out of 20 minutes, I heard Fuller being politically correct and not speaking facts. And that's the problem with Fuller. He has, from the get-go, let me explain it this way. Matt Riviera, NWA Lone Star Tag Team Champion, ECW Elite Tag Team Champion, IHWE Champion. Who did he beat for the IHWE Championship? Nobody. And the NWA Lone Star Tag Team Championship, the ECW Elite Tag Team Championship. Matt Riviera needs somebody with him to accomplish anything. In 2013, Matt Riviera was honored by the CAC, the greatest nonprofit 501c3 wrestling organization in the world. 9 times out of 10, when somebody is honored, it is by a unanimous vote by the executive board and the board of directors of the Cauliflower Alley Club. There was one person that did not vote for Matt Riviera to be honored by the CAC, and it was me. Reason being, Matt Riviera used to be one hell of a wrestler. He was born and raised in Arkansas. Then all of a sudden he gets popular. He goes to Hollywood. He moves to Hollywood. He starts being on these reality shows. His ego explodes. Now all of a sudden Matt Riviera has changed into the person he is. I'm not taking nothing away from Matt Riviera as wrestler. I don't like his tactics. I don't like the way he wrestles. This year at the Cauliflower Alley Club, Monday night, in his wrestling match, something happened. It was 5 or 10 staples in his head. Michael McCurdy, Brian Westcott, Joe, all of you guys was there. You know what I'm talking about. He went to the hospital. He got stitches. Tuesday, what did he do? He packed his bags and went home. But he's a world champion. Back in the day, Ric Flair, Harley Race, Stan Hansen, the Von Erichs, Bruiser Brody, all of them. When they got injured, the next night they was where they was supposed to be, putting on a show, doing what they done best. Matt Riviera, IHWE champion, yeah, I got problems with that. He beat nobody. The belt was handed to him. I told Fuller to start with, you're making a mistake. He didn't listen to me. Several people told Fuller what it was, in my opinion, it was stupid, but he done it. So now we've got this problem. Every time Matt Riviera has stepped into the IHWE ring, some crony has been involved with his match. Look at Fuller. They threw him out of the ring. He went head first flying out of the ring like a seagull and got a concussion. I will be there September the 28th. What my capacity will be is I will be a fan. Jim Cornette's going to be there. Stan Hansen's going to be there. The list is on and on. Black Bart, he's going to be there. Charlie Haas from the WWE. Less than an hour and a half ago, I sent Michael McCurdy a text, and I said, Michael, I am on the way home to call in at 10 o'clock. I am leaving Jimmy Valiant's house now. I just had supper with the WWE Hall of Famer, Jimmy Valiant. Me and Jimmy Valiant had a long talk about what's going to go down September the 28th at the Sendera Center in Fort Worth, Texas. What my role's going to be, I'm going to be sitting ringside. And what happens, happens. But I got a sneaky feeling Matt Riviera will end up doing something just like always. He will keep the belt in front of all these legends that's going to be there. He will do something crooked to win. Now, if you've got any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
Joe, do you have a question?
Wow. All I'm going to say is, Morgan, first I want to wish you well. And, having supper with handsome Jimmy Valiant, and I would have loved to be a fly on the wall to listen to that conversation.
Joe, I appreciate it, and I hope you're doing well. I really don't want to discuss who I call Boogie, what we discussed. He told me, I will tell you this, he told me I needed to talk to Jim Cornette when I get to Texas. So when I get to Fort Worth, I will have a conversation with Jim Cornette, and it will be a personal conversation, and I'll leave it at that.
Sounds to me that the tension is going to be so thick you can cut it with a knife that night.
Well, Matt Riviera, I really liked Matt. He was so good of a wrestler, but it was like Fuller said. He sees an old-school Ric Flair in Matt Riviera. Well, look at how many championships did Ric Flair carry only because of the three other horsemen that kept the belt around Ric Flair's waist for him. And Matt's the same way. Matt cannot do nothing without, he can't keep nothing without somebody helping him. And that's my whole gripe about it. Man, put him in a cage or something. Weld the door shut. Don't put a stupid lock on it. Weld the door shut, and when it's over with, have the welder come back and cut the door open. Something's got to give with this Matt Riviera deal.
Yes, indeed.
Brian, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
Well, like I say, I remember seeing Matt Riviera in person take on, I believe it was Franco D'Angelo, and for the Future Stars Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. He came up by himself. Like I say, I was impressed. The boy has talent. Otherwise, we wouldn't have honored him in the first place. He's got a little bit of a redneck in him. He's got a little bit of a playboy in him. It will be very interesting to see if he could get past the Iron Man this Friday in Sherman, Texas. Well, I may have a double champion there on the 28th. So we will see how things go.
So there's a slim possibility that whoever Matt Riviera wrestles September the 28th at the Sendera Center could very well leave as the IHWE champion and the NWA champion. That possibility exists because of this match he's going to have coming up within the next 48 hours.
Yes, indeed. It would be very interesting to watch, to see what happens out of that, and to see whether if he could do it by himself or if he's going to need a little bit of insurance. As you mentioned with Ric Flair and the Four Horsemen, a little bit of insurance policy. After all, he's got the ear of James J. Dillon. Need I say more?
I totally agree with you. J.J. Dillon and me, on a personal level, we're good friends. J.J., I don't know if the Four Horsemen would have ever been the catalyst of professional wrestling as they was without J.J. Dillon managing all the behind-the-scenes situations that go on in professional wrestling. So, yes, I'm sure Matt will probably be in conversation with J.J. probably the 27th and the 28th of September, figure out a strategy to whatever's going to happen. So, yes, with the knowledge J.J.'s given him and the Empire, this could be September the 28th, I swear it's going to be the biggest wrestling show that's ever been in Fort Worth, Texas. And I don't want the IHWE champion to come out there and make a mockery of the IHWE wrestling organization.
So, Morgan, you've said that you will be, sitting at the ringside as a fan, but if the situation arises and you felt that, something needed to be said, are you going to be there are you going to stand up and say what's got to be said?
I will do what I have to do. Michael, you and me talked last night, and the reason I'm behind IHWE is because I really feel they are doing the right thing for professional wrestling, not only in Texas, but all across the world. They've got the IHWE TV, of course, their website, but it's all over the world. And the talent, the great talent that has come out of Texas, it's a list of who's who. I was born and raised on the East Coast. I am a big, big, major Jim Crockett Promotions fan. But I always knew, in my opinion, there was two promotions, the East Coast and Texas, and that was it. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do. If I have to stand up and speak my mind in front of 1,000 people, so be it. I'm not going to be CAC Executive Vice President-elect that night. I'm going to be a fan sitting ringside, and to say something, if I have to do something, whatever happens, happens. And I just hope. I've got major concerns about this situation with Matt Riviera making a mockery of IHWE, and I don't really want to see it happen because they've got a great thing going, and Fuller don't need this.
Well, I guess we're all just going to have to wait and see what happens on September 28th. I know I've spoke with David about it before, but you are right. Something's got to be done about Matt Riviera, and it has to be done soon. So I guess we will see on September 28th exactly what's going to happen at Old School Hustle.
It's and there's so much great talent on that card. Franco D'Angelo, Charlie Haas, the women's match, the Ring of Honor star, Kyle O'Reilly, Stan Henson, Jim Cornette, Black Bart, Lynn Denton. I mean, it's a list of who's going to be there. And of all shows, for Matt Riviera to be there, I got concerns and I got issues with it. So many times a promoter brings in all this great talent, all the great legends that laid the foundation for so many of us to do what we do. And then you have one person involved in the whole aspect of it, screw it up for everybody, make a mockery of the whole situation, then that promoter gets a bad name. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the promoting side of it. I'm looking at the talent side of it, and I just don't. IHW's got too much of a good thing going. They don't need to Fuller, Black Bart, whoever's got a hold of this situation. They need to be real careful because the entire night everybody's going to be walking on pins and needles, not knowing what's fixing to happen with this Matt Riviera situation. And I don't want to see it go south and screw the whole situation up.
Well, I don't think any of us want to see that. So like I said, we will see what happens on September 28th. And, Morgan, thank you for coming on and giving us your side of it. I did extend the invitation last night to Matt Riviera to come on to the show and, tell his side of it. But obviously Matt Riviera decided not to join us tonight. That might say something right there.
He's on vacation out in Hollywood. I've seen pictures on the internet of him in this swimming pool cherishing his IHWE championship belt. So he don't have time to come on a radio show and defend himself when he knows that the only thing I am speaking of is fact and not fiction. So he knows he's got himself against the wall and can't do nothing about it.
All right, well, Morgan, while we have you on the air here real quick, October 8th, we're going to be beginning our promotion of the CAC 50th anniversary reunion coming up in April. You are the Executive Vice President-elect. Brian Blair has now stepped up to the office of President. Just a couple weeks ago, you announced that Diamond Dallas Page would be receiving the Jason Sanderson Humanitarian Award, which will be presented to him by Jake Roberts and Dusty Rhodes. Is there anything else that you can let us know about now that's coming up, or is there just still some things in the planning process there?
Well, Michael, I appreciate you mentioning the 50th anniversary, and I appreciate IHWE supporting the Cauliflower Alley Club the way they do. It's always great to get good advertisement outside of the CAC for the CAC. It shows the interest that organizations outside of just the CAC itself, it continues to show towards the CAC. So I really appreciate that. Right now, we're working on the ballot. We've got a few more things to get verified with the honorees before we can announce any. Of course, we'll have the seminars, and it'll be just like it's always been. But the 50th anniversary will be the biggest and the baddest since the CAC started having reunions. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good year, and who knows? I might let you in on something at IHWE. If I have something to tell about the CAC in Fort Worth, Texas, I'll clue you in on it. And you can broadcast it live from there.
Sounds good to me. Now, real quick before we let you go, we all had a chance a couple weeks ago to kind of say something about, the former president of the CAC, Nick Bockwinkel, who we did say just stepped down recently. Brian Blair has taken his spot. Is there anything you would like to say while you have the chance about the years with Nick Bockwinkel as president?
Well, Nick was a great AWA champion. He, in my opinion, he was the best AWA champion ever. He carried the belt with dignity. He was always a professional. He dressed the part. He was just a great guy, but he will always be bigger than life to me, not as a wrestler, but as a very, very dear friend. And I respect that friendship. And although he won't be president, I will still be calling him, getting his opinion on certain things. And, I look forward to him being able to come to the reunions and not have any pressure on him of running the reunion or anything, and just hanging out and having a good time with everybody.
All right. Well, Morgan, thank you for joining us tonight. And Joe and I will definitely see you on September 28th.
All right. Guys, I'll see you September 28th. Brian, you need to get you an airline ticket to come on down to Fort Worth, Texas.
I'd love to, but
There's
I got to be here in Idaho, so.
All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you letting me get on here and talk about this Matt Riviera situation, and we will see you all September the 28th.
Yes,
sir.
we will. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. There's definitely some heated opinions there from Morgan Dollar on the IHWE heavyweight champion Matt Riviera, and personally, I think that Morgan is not just going to sit idly by on the 28th. If something's going to need to be said, I think Morgan's going to be the first one to pop up and say it.
Do you think?
Yeah.
All right, guys. On that note, man, we've had a great show. I want to thank the Tokyo Monster Cahagas for joining us tonight, as well as David Fuller and Morgan Dollar. Next week, as I said, Austin has a guest lined up for us. Hope to have the details on that on the IHWE Radio Facebook page in the next day or two. And then the second hour of our show next week will be the go-to hour, the wrap-up of the Road to Old School Hustle. It's a few days before the live event on the 28th at the Sendera Center in Fort Worth, Texas. David will be joining us. He has a few other guests lined up to come on here. We're going to be promoting Old School Hustle, talking about last-minute additions to the card. So next week's show, as all our shows are, is definitely going to be a must-listen. But at this point, I'm going to sign off, let everyone know that, as always, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Encyclopedia World Class. You can find me on Twitter at MichaelMC1972. And I am currently in the process right now of finalizing the details on the website for my promotions company, OOA Promotions, which will include Encyclopedia WCCW. It will include IHWE California, which will basically be the go-to page for everything involving me, because I'm starting to get a little bit of an ego here. I like to talk about myself. Anyways, Joe, how can everyone find you out there on social media?
You're the only one laughing. Anyone that wants to, attempt to track me down, they just go to Joe Sousa. That's JoeSousa. No, not in the Mickey Mouse, SOUSA type of thing. Exactly. Yes, JoeSousa. Just find me and friend me up and take a look at some of the pictures I've put up over the past 20, 30 years of some very, very cool classic wrestling stuff, as well as some surprises.
Brian?
And you can always find me on Facebook, Brian, Brian Westcott, WESTCOTT. And you could also find me on my own pro wrestling website, www.brianrich, one word, BRINRICH.net/wrestle.html. And, of course, let's not forget about the phenomenal Austin Porsche. Of course, he has Powerbomb Radio on Tuesday nights. Of course, he has his own website. He's involved in graphic design. So shout out to Austin. We miss you. We're looking forward to seeing you next week.
Definitely. The term conspicuous by his absence definitely fits for Austin. We're looking forward to having him join us next week. And, I am not Jagger Lane. Just remember that. But, you can find him on Facebook, Austin Porsche, not like the car, as he always says, Porche. You can also find him under Austin James Graphic Designs. He's on Twitter. I don't have all that information. And, yes, he is the co-host of Pipe Bomb Radio with Felix Alamido every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. You can always join them and listen there. I've listened to it every week. It's a great show. And also, as always, you can find him on here next week with us, back where he belongs, probably talking about the Bella Twins. He likes them. But anyways, on that note, thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. And please join us next week so we can come back, entertain you again for another 2 hours, and talk a little bit of wrestling. Good night.
So long, everybody.